Hello, everybody. I am Russell Tomlinson, along with my lovely co-host, Stephanie Renee
Hey
Tomlinson,
everyone.
and welcome to Relationship Revolution Television. Stephanie, we have a subject that I believe everybody will be able to relate to,
Oh yeah.
and that is dealing with difficult people. We all have them. We all encounter them. And if you have not, keep living. You will, because anytime humans get together, there's always going to be some human challenges. But before we get started, let me take time and invite you to like, share, and follow or subscribe to Russell Tomlinson or at Russell Tomlinson. And then, of course, I'm also on YouTube, Russell Tomlinson Global, and you'll be able to also see us there. But make sure you share this. Somebody, if not everybody, needs to know, how do we go about dealing with, how do we handle difficult people? Here's the first thing I would say, Stephanie, as we get into this. Number
Okay.
one, it's in the lives of difficult people, or the
Mm.
challenge, I should say, with difficult people, where most people give away their power.
Mm.
And when you are dealing with a difficult person, maybe one of the greatest challenges is holding on to your personal power. A lot of people lose it. They lose their patience.
Yeah.
They lose their manners. They do all kinds of things as a result of having to deal with somebody that's rubbing them the wrong way, somebody that has offended them, someone that is always pretty much giving them a hard time.
Yeah.
So the issue is, the first thing that I'm thinking about is, I've got to make sure that when I'm dealing with a difficult person, I do not give away my personal power.
That is good. I find that if we learn how to deal with difficult people, we regain freedom. It's
Yeah.
it's what freedom feels like. So yeah, giving away your personal power is huge. And this is also where emotional intelligence comes in at, because a lot of times we lose our cool, we lose it. So whatever character integrity that we typically hold on to, usually in these situations, is when we kind of let go of those things and allow ourselves to behave in ways that may not bring about a level of influence. So power is a big one.
Yeah, you make a good point in that people lose their emotional intelligence. That's
Hmm.
probably the first step in
Hmm.
giving away your personal power. You know, that's the challenge, I believe. I think that's even more important, is that difficult people actually have a negative emotional effect, or can have a
Yeah.
negative emotional effect,
Hmm.
depending on your reaction or your response. A person that is emotionally intelligent
Hmm.
will respond.
Yeah.
A person that is emotionally ignorant will react.
There you go.
And so we're going to look at how we can actually go about making sure
Mhm.
that everybody that's hearing will benefit from what we're going to talk about as far as being able to handle difficult people,
Yeah.
because you can either benefit from it or have breakthroughs as a result of dealing with it the right way, or if you handle it wrong, there's going to be some breakdowns when it comes to difficult people. So I know
Mhm.
you have something that you can share with us, some points, some pointers. uh, what would be your recommendation?
I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said, but basically pay attention to your emotions and your behaviors, because it's your emotions and your behaviors is going to give you information about yourself that you may not be aware of. So how you're, like you said, how you are reacting to situations, how you're behaving, the triggers, what you are feeling is actually telling you the information that you need to know about yourself. Where are you? You know, what is your perspective about that person? A lot of times we have to check our hearts towards that difficult person. Are we, what are we feeling? Are we feeling insecure? Are we feeling jealous? Are we just wanting acceptance? Are we wanting love? Are our expectations not being managed?
Yeah,
So checking our hearts and making sure that you know, we're paying attention to our emotions and our behaviors, because it's giving us information about ourselves.
yeah. Well, the other thing too that I have discovered is that we can actually uh, use
Mhm.
difficult people for our personal development.
Yeah.
Now, it tells you your level of maturity,
Mhm.
the way you handle difficult people. Listen,
Yep.
it could be a difficult child, a difficult, adolescent, a difficult teenager, a difficult adult. We are born as humans with these propensities just to be difficult because we are human. I've
Mhm.
been difficult. I've ran into difficult people. But the issue is, the better I understand how to handle not only being difficult, but having to deal with difficult people, the more I can see where I need to be matured or developed as an individual.
Exactly.
Every time I have a challenge with a difficult person,
Mhm.
it speaks to my level of emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, mental maturity.
Yep.
So I know where I need to grow up
Mhm.
based on me and the way I deal with
Mhm.
people that are challenging or difficult, if you will.
Yeah, and it also takes a level of maturity to be able to even look at yourself, because what most people do is we point the finger. We look at that person who's difficult and we point the finger, you know, and we get upset and angry that they're being difficult. And what we try to do is we try to control their behaviors. If you're not so difficult, then I would be okay. You know, if you're not so difficult, then I would be happier. If you're not so difficult, then I would be in a better place. And we put that power, like you said, and that responsibility on them to straighten up so we can be okay. But at the end of the day, it's our personal responsibility to make sure we are checking ourselves opposed to pointing the finger and the blame at other people.
Yeah, yeah. You know where difficult people really sort of throw a lot of people off, and a lot of people give away their power.
Hmm.
Power. It's when they encounter. Listen to this: difficult church people,
Mm,
because a lot of times we think because people
yeah,
are religious, or they go to church, or they have,
Christians.
yeah, Christian, whatever the case
Hmm.
may be, or believers, we don't, sometimes we let our guards down,
Yeah.
and we don't, sometimes it just seems to blow people's mind that there are even difficult people, lots of them, in
Mhm.
church. One of the reasons why is because uh, even though a person can be born again, saved, redeemed, whatever term you want to use,
Hmm.
they're still carrying baggage,
Yeah.
and they're not fully developed just because they have faith or
Hmm.
they are part of religion. You can ask any pastor this. Any pastor will tell you if they are really understanding what they're there for, that there are so many difficult people to
Mhm.
deal with in a congregation, whether it's small, medium size, or large. So
Yeah.
I think a pastor should pretty much expect that. But
Mhm.
when it comes to those that are out in the pews, as we say, those that are members of the church, there's a lot of conflict that can take place and strife and all kinds of emotional challenges,
Mhm.
relationship challenges right out there because people are born again, but
Mhm.
they're still dealing with bad behavior. And
Yeah.
that makes it challenging, and you can run it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say about a difficult usher or sometimes even a difficult pastor in the
Yeah.
pulpit. So
Mhm.
the issue is they are everywhere. And what I want to do is look at how we go about actually um, dealing with it. What should
Yeah.
be our response to a difficult person?
I think the first thing we need to do is shift our perspectives on these people. Ask God to help us to see this person beneath their surface. A lot of times people are like icebergs.
Yeah,
We see the surface part of them, which may be, whatever it is, whatever they want to see us, but there's so much beneath that person. And those are the things that we typically don't see. People have been hurt, people have been abused, people have been wronged, people have been betrayed, and a lot of times we don't see that what's underneath the surface, so we treat people as if they don't have anything going on. So a lot of times when we just pray and ask God, hey, show me this person, what should I be seeing, a lot of the times we will experience compassion for people who are difficult because we understand, oh wow, maybe they've gone through something or they have gone through something, and then we're able to shift our perspective whenever we have a level of compassion for people.
yeah, yeah. Because a born again experience does not does not make a person functional,
Mhm.
and a lot of times I'm right now talking about those that are church going people or Christians. They're not functional just because they're born again. They're still being developed. So the scripture tells us to be merciful, to be kind, even those that fall into a sin or some type, or maybe even struggling with some type of addiction or some
Mhm.
type of emotional issues. There it requires that we understand how to go about helping them. First of all, by being kind and patient and
Mhm.
loving and having the right response. I think that's a very, very important part of it. What
Mhm.
should my response be? Here's what scripture says: a
Mhm.
soft answer turns away wrath.
Yeah.
If I get caught up into some type of back and forth with somebody that is dysfunctional, difficult, disturbed, whatever the issue might be,
Mhm.
I have to know how to deal with them. First of all, in communicating to them,
Mhm.
have a right tone of voice and have the right tenor or use the right words
Right.
when I'm dealing with a difficult person because
Mhm.
the wrong tone and the wrong words could escalate things. And before you know it, you're pulled into some type of strife situation,
Yeah.
type of fight, some type of argument, because I don't have control over my tone. I don't understand what I'm dealing with, who I'm dealing with. So I don't have control over my tone, and then I don't know the right words to use. I
Yeah.
found out that just to be able to say with say a monotone voice,
Mhm.
don't let my voice go up,
Mhm.
or even down. Just keep it monotone, and
Yeah.
then make sure that I am appealing to their emotions.
Mhm.
A difficult person, I think you have to help them to start feeling better emotionally first, get
Mhm.
the emotions calmed down,
Mhm.
then you can deal with the issue, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But a lot of difficult people have emotional challenges.
I find that, like you're basically saying, like the behaviors, the calm tone and all of those things. That is very difficult to do if you don't have the correct perspective.
Yeah,
Because if you have a wrong perspective of a person, for instance, they're just doing this to hurt me, or they're just doing this to, that personalization that we talked about last week. If you have the wrong perspective, you'll find yourself wanting to behave right, wanting to do all the right things. And I can say this from experience. Wanting to do all the right things or behave correctly as you should in certain arguments, but finding it extremely difficult, so that perspective change will actually cause the behavior change. Now, because I have the right perspective, now I can actually keep my tone calm, and now I can, make better decisions within my emotions, because my perspective is clear.
yeah. And when you're dealing with a person that's challenged emotionally, or maybe they're hurt, they're disappointed, they're angry. All
Mhm.
of these things happen along the way in life. Now, anybody that is emotionally ignorant, and that's just the best way to put it, be
Opposite of
straightforward.
emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. But if they are emotionally ignorant and you happen to be really emotionally intelligent and
Mhm.
you know the right way to respond, that means that emotionally they are beneath you. The
Mm,
only way an emotionally ignorant person can pull another person down
mhm.
is that they have to be beneath them to pull them down. You
Yeah.
can't get pulled down if you stay on top of your emotions.
Yep.
But when you get pulled into this emotional conflict,
Yeah.
and it's all about anger and fighting and disagreeing and strife, before you know it, it's very easy. We talk about losing our temper.
Mhm.
Very easy to happen. I don't care how spirit filled you are,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be, you have to stay. Every emotional failure will guarantee a failure in other areas.
Yeah.
Every emotional failure. So when you fall to these emotional ups and downs, what you actually fall into
Mm.
is your emotions are failing. You're failing to basically, how can I put it? You're failing to respond out of emotional intelligence, and
Yeah.
you get pulled into, and then you get pulled down.
Mhm.
And that's where we need what is called the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Now, let's
Uh-huh.
let's be clear. I want to be very clear about this.
Mhm.
The fruit from a tree is not for the benefit of the tree.
Mhm.
So, being from Florida, we have a lot of orange groves,
Yep.
in Florida. And then, if you're up north, you got apple orchards there. We got peach orchards here in the Georgia area. My point is that we can pick fruit, but the tree itself doesn't benefit from the fruit. It's the
Mhm.
person that picks it. The
Mhm.
fruit of the Spirit is really not for the person that bears the fruit.
Yeah.
The fruit of the Spirit is for the person that would try to challenge them
Mhm.
or have a conflict with them.
Mhm.
So when a person who is emotionally unintelligent comes to pick on me,
Mhm.
challenges me,
Mhm.
I've got to have some love
Yeah.
for him to pick on or
Mhm.
her, joy, peace, long suffering, which is patience, goodness, meekness, and self control.
Yeah.
Well, these are the fruit of the Spirit. And
Mhm.
so a lot of believers talking about they've got fruit.
Yeah.
You'll never know how much fruit you have until you encounter people that
Mhm.
are difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Difficult people are fruit testers.
Yeah, yeah. They test
100%.
Yeah, they test your fruit. They test
Mhm.
everyone. The reason it's called fruit of the Spirit is because it comes from one source.
Yeah.
That's the Spirit. But they're different manifestations of that fruit. Depending on some people, you just need to have love for them. Then
Yeah.
there are others, you got to have long suffering. Then
Mhm.
there are others, you got to have kindness. They're different. The same source is the Spirit,
Mhm.
but different people need a different manifestation
Yeah.
of that fruit. So there is no way that I can know what kind of fruit I have
Mhm.
unless I am challenged by difficult people.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to, it giving you the information that you need about yourself, because if you can't give out that the fruits of the spirit like you were saying, then it's going to be returned with cursing someone out and and all of the negative emotions, but that's just a signal that you lack fruit.
I just saw one of the Mr. Harrow. How long is long suffering? Well, I think we get a good idea from Jesus when he told his
Mhm.
disciples, you guys need to forgive. Up to 7 times, no, 70 times seven. That so upset them. They said, hey, increase our faith.
Yeah.
Jesus's response was, you don't need your faith increased. You simply need to put to work the faith that you already have.
Mhm.
Everybody that's listening to us, you have enough faith to deal with a difficult person. The only thing is that I think a lot of people are not emotionally mature.
Mhm.
Not the problem is not with their faith. The problem is they're still trying to mature in the area of their emotions. A person like like that generally is more into their feelings.
Yeah.
As I hear, the language nowadays, they felt some kind of way. The language has certainly changed. Why did he do that? Well, he was feeling some kind of way. Um, we use another term. Can you feel me? Do you feel me? We're talking. We're trying to express. Do you feel me? There is a place for emotions,
Mhm.
but there is no place for a fruitful life, for a progressive life, for a successful life, for unintelligent emotions.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with difficult people. Most likely, we're dealing with people that have some level of emotional disturbance.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you get pulled into it, you could find out that you're just as emotionally disturbed as they are.
Every time you get pulled into it, you are in that same place that they are. Yeah. And a lot of times, we have to be able to search that part of us. We have to be able to say, okay, I have some work to do. And we have to be willing to actually work on ourselves, because this is the thing that's going to help us to deal with difficult people. And when we do gain control, that emotional intelligence, like I said earlier, we will truly experience freedom. So no one can, there's something they used to say a long time ago: if you're all of your buttons, we all have buttons. If you push my buttons, I'm going to be upset. All these buttons you used to talk about, and if all your buttons are exposed, you know, anybody can just come and push them whenever they feel like pushing them.
Yeah, yeah. And a greater challenge is this. A greater challenge is this. What do you do
Hmm.
when you actually live with a difficult person? That's what a lot of people discovered
Yeah.
that that they were during COVID, during the lockdown. quarantine and all of that, that they were actually living with somebody that was more difficult than they thought, just
Yeah,
based on having to be home with them all the time.
the distractions
Emotions,
being taken
yeah,
away.
emotions were high.
Mhm.
There were all kinds of Levi
Levi
said,
said you move out.
that is if you have somewhere to go.
In this
Right.
economy.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a whole different kind of strategy though, Stephanie, when
Mhm.
you're dealing with somebody difficult that you actually live with.
Yeah,
So we've got to look, we got to take a look at that because at some point you've got to somehow come up with a peace treaty,
yeah,
and
yeah.
how does that work?
Yeah, I think it's the same rules that apply. It's just you just need extra grace for it, but at the same time, you have to check your heart towards that person, and you still have to shift your perspective. But I think the biggest things is a lot of times we have to manage our expectations. We see people for who they are. People show us who they are all the time, but a lot of times we don't want to believe it because our expectations are here, and a lot of times people will show us that we're just here. And every single time our expectations are not met, we're met with disappointment.
Yeah,
So it's almost like we're disappointing ourselves
yeah,
for not managing our expectations of where a person truly shows us where they are. So if they're constantly lying or becoming disrespectful, and they've shown you this over and over and over again, at what point do you expect or manage your expectations for them to be exactly what they're showing you that they are?
yeah. Well, good point. And here's what I'm thinking. Expectation always will meet reality.
Hmm.
The things that we expect of people, they don't always live up to our expectations. Once I understand the reality of who it is I am dealing with,
Hmm.
now I've got to adjust my expectation, understanding that they're not as mature as I thought they were.
Hmm.
They are not as emotionally intelligent as I gave them credit for. I
Hmm.
gave them too much credit. And now what I've got to do is I've got to make an adjustment in the area of my expectation towards them.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean?
Hmm.
What does that even look like? It means I handle them differently now.
Yeah.
You know, I can't make a demand on them
Hmm.
emotionally because I know that they're not capable of handling it.
They
What
don't
I
have the capacity.
Yeah, and what I'm doing now, I guess this is probably the best way I can put it for now. I've got to go along to get along. In other words, I'm going to do my best to help them to keep their emotions in check. I certainly got to keep mine in check.
Hmm.
However, however, uh, and somebody just said, Levi, renegotiate the relationship. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know if I would renegotiate it, but I would certainly make an adjustment to it.
Hmm.
And once I make the proper adjustment, that's a storm that I could weather until I get past that.
Yeah.
Uh, I work with a difficult older person.
Hmm.
When do you give up working if they keep happening? If they keep happening. I hope I
Hmm.
read that the right way.
If it keeps happening, basically, if the thing keeps happening.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I would give up my job for any difficult person. I think it's
Mhm.
interesting. That's really an interesting statement because very few people will put up with difficult people as long as they're getting paid.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It's a bait, but
We
what
won't deal with it in church though.
but in church, it's a whole different story. Like, hey, I don't know, nobody's paying me to be here. I don't have to put up with that.
Hmm.
On the job, there's a man that had a had a different perspective challenge. Um, the story goes that this man was on a train in the subway in New York. Uh, a man gets on with his kids, and the man sits down, and the kids are running wild. So he's observing and said, "Why doesn't this father? I know these are his children. They came on with him. They look like him. Why doesn't he correct these children? They're running all over the subway."
Mm-hmm.
And then he just spoke to the guy. He said, "Hey, you might want to correct your children." And the guy said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me." He said, "I'm just sitting here now trying to figure out how I'm going to tell them that their mother just passed away in the
Wow.
hospital."
Wow.
All of a sudden, there was a different perspective.
Exactly.
He just saw an irresponsible father
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of bad children running around.
Yeah.
And
Perspective is everything.
yeah, and then when he heard the father's explanation, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sitting here trying to figure out, how am I going to tell them that their mom just died? She's never coming back home again. All of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden, the guy's perspective changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's no longer looking at a father who is negligent towards his children. He's actually sympathetic
Mm-hmm.
because now he knows what's going on behind
Underneath that
the
surface.
behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with a lot of people, they don't understand what's going on behind the behavior. We don't know what people are going through. And
Yeah.
anytime you encounter a difficult person
Mm-hmm.
that is chronically different, constantly different,
Yeah.
difficult, I should say, then what is happening is there's something going on behind the scenes we can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have to, in a lot of cases, just give. There are days I have great patience for difficult people.
Mm-hmm.
There are other days I don't, and I can feel it when I don't. But my response is always the right response.
Mm-hmm.
But my emotions are being challenged, and sometimes people allow their emotions to get the best of them. The best way I have found to handle difficult people
Mm-hmm.
is to practice with the people that are closest to you.
Oh yeah.
You
They'll
can
test
handle
you
them.
most too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can handle them. Then you're most likely ready to deal with. You got married couples.
Mm-hmm.
There are difficult times, challenges that we have in marriages. But
Yeah.
if I handle my union with my wife, my
Mm-hmm.
spouse, the right way,
Mm-hmm.
it gives me a jump start on how I deal with people that are out in society. So
Yeah.
perspective is important.
It's everything. And a lot of times we have to be careful because some of these tests may be, an indication if you're ready for that next level. Because every level we go to, there's going to be some difficult people waiting for us. You're
Oh,
not going to be able to get rid of it. So my perspective is typically this is probably a test. Let me make sure I pass it.
that's a very good point because I think about a Bible character. Uh, David was
Hmm.
actually getting ready to ascend to the throne. And just before that happened, he runs into this guy named Nabal.
Hmm.
His name means fool, but he's a very rich fool.
Right.
And David had been protecting his property, and Nabal never knew it. And then David sent some men to Nabal and said, "Hey, we've been protecting your property. Could you please give us some supplies, some bread, some raisins, some meats?" And Nabal said, "I don't know you all. Who is David? Like,
Hmm.
I don't care who you are. I'm not giving you anything." David said, "Okay, that's it. That's enough. You know what I'm going to do?" David gathered up some men. He said, "I'm going to wipe out Nabal and his family, his servants. I'm going to destroy everything and take what I want."
Hmm.
Abigail, Nabal's wife, heard about it, gathered up all of the supplies that David needed, ran out there to meet David and said, "David, here's what you've been asking for. Now you're going to be king one day.
Mm,
Don't allow this fool
mm.
to make you miss your destiny. I wonder how many folk have missed their purpose and destiny
Yeah.
because they respond to a fool. In other words, they get pulled into a conflict
Hmm.
that will pay them nothing.
Yeah.
And that's how people get thrown off track. A
Yeah.
lot of these things happen on a daily basis.
Sometimes hourly.
Yeah, yeah, maybe minute by minute, no doubt. There are always going to be people that
Yeah.
are in conflict, and there are certain battles that's not worth fighting. You
Yeah.
know, coming along, I would consider myself a brawler, even after I got saved. I'm not necessarily talking about physical fighting,
Hmm.
but trading words and
Hmm.
attitude and all of
That's
that.
where I get it from. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now, well, I don't know. You may not have gotten it from me. So anyway, I learned that there are certain battles that I get nothing out of.
Hmm.
David, speaking of David, he had difficult brothers. When he went to bring them lunch, and David saw Goliath walking up, say, "Hey, what will be done to the man that kills this giant?" And his oldest brother started coming down on him. Going back to those few sheep that you have and
Hmm.
take care of them. You just came out here to be mischievous.
Hmm.
Well, at the end of the day, David turned from him and continued to ask his question to other people. In other words, David knew that he would gain something by fighting Goliath,
Yeah.
but he would gain nothing by
Hmm.
fighting his big brother.
Yeah.
He knew how to choose his battles. So
Hmm.
when you're dealing with difficult people, you have to discern and ask yourself, for me to get into it with this person, how will it benefit me? Now,
Yep.
it
Hmm.
can benefit you. If
Hmm.
you respond the right way to a difficult person,
Hmm.
you grow spiritually. You grow spiritually. You,
And
yeah,
that's something else that you taught me. You grow in influence.
you grow in exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
you grow spiritually. You grow in authority, and you grow in influence.
Hmm.
If you don't handle it the right way, you diminish your authority, you diminish your influence, and you diminish yourself spiritually. You
Yeah.
shrink, so to speak.
People are always watching. They're always watching. Even when you don't recognize it, people are always watching your every move. They're watching how you're handling situations. They're watching how you're managing your emotions. They're always watching you,
Yeah,
and so when you learn how to handle things the right way, your influence grows. Somebody's going to recognize it.
yeah, yeah. And what is it that difficult people do? They kill influence.
Mm,
They kill
yeah.
your ability to walk in a greater level of spirituality and faith if you let them. If you
Hmm.
respond the wrong, if you react, I should say, the wrong way. They kill your influence, they lessen your authority, they they diminish your spirituality.
Hmm.
And so people are not worth that. Nobody is worth me giving away my power, my authority, my influence, lessening me
Hmm.
spiritually, because what they will end up doing, not
Yeah.
it's not just about destiny and purpose only. It's about me as a person now.
Hmm.
If I am not fit as a person uh, of character, a person with a sterling um, attitude, then I've already counseled myself out. I
Yeah.
can't I can't blame the person uh,
Hmm.
who is difficult. I
Hmm.
have to take responsibility
Hmm.
for my own self.
Danielle just said something very key. She just said sometimes you have to look at the spirit behind the person.
Yeah,
You know. Hmm.
and that word spirit, the word spirit and attitude can be interchangeable in
Hmm.
Scripture.
Mhm.
Be renewed in the spirit of your mind, be renewed in the attitude of your mind. It's not necessarily just a demonic spirit, but it could be just an attitude that we allow, uh, that affects the way we think and behave. It impacts the way we think and we behave. So I have to keep my attitude right. The best way to keep a good attitude is to be able to know who you are
Mhm.
as an individual. Uh,
Mhm.
my identity. I will not behave below who I am in Christ.
Right.
When I make that my identity, then I will not stoop to the level of somebody that is what we call carnal.
Mhm.
And so it's important for me to understand this is who I am. And a prince or a king will not dignify foolishness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we begin to deal with these
Mhm.
people that are difficult. And you run into them all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to address the question that was said before, the older person on the job. A lot of times, also, we do have to put our boundaries in place, and every boundary should come with a consequence. So, as soon as those boundaries are being crossed, there should be a consequence coming into place. Like a boundary would be, I would really appreciate if you did not yell at me. And the consequence to that boundary would be, if you continue to yell at me, I'm going to withdraw from this conversation. And if that's something that keeps happening, just using emotional intelligence and wisdom does not mean that we just allow people to run all over us. We still have to put those boundaries in place, and consequences along with those boundaries. And if those consequences are still being crossed, then sometimes we do have to make that decision. Okay, well, how much do I, or when do I, I guess, remove myself, from certain situations, not all, but certain situations.
Yeah. That's a great point, because a lot of times people do think that humility means, you're going to be walked over, walked on. When in reality, it's just a matter of using the right tone and
Mhm.
the right words in order to get a person's attention, to let you know, look, I am emotionally intelligent. The way you respond to them. Uh,
Mhm.
I'll never forget. I worked on the job with difficult people when I was working. We call it secular, but wherever a person is working, that's their ministry at the time.
Right.
They are the light, whether it's a government office, whatever job you do apart from church. That is your ministry at the time. And working with difficult people is always a part of the kind of environment that you walk into, because what people do, they bring their home life attitude with them. If they
Mhm.
come from a house where there's a lot of strife, most likely that's in them by the time you know they get to work. And I've had to, uh, I grew as a result of understanding
Yeah.
who it is I'm dealing with. Now, if
Mhm.
you are a spiritual person, there are orchestrated attacks
Yep.
on you through difficult people trying to actually pull you out of the spirit. I've seen it
Mhm.
so many times.
I've experienced it.
Yeah, the enemy can use them, and sometimes the spirit in you will
Mhm.
stir up the spirits of those people that are out there in the world that
Yeah.
actually belong to the enemy. I mean, there
Mhm.
are so many challenges, and we have so many opportunities to mess up. I was at the Fort Lauderdale airport a few years ago. I had
Mhm.
my bag in my hand. I took my bag off of my hand. This
Mhm.
real old guy. I mean, he was super old,
Mhm.
but he was a part of what is it called? Uh,
TSA.
TSA. Yeah.
Mhm.
So he walks through the line, takes my bag and throws it to the side.
Mhm.
I mean, he just and picked my bag up from in front of me and threw it out of the way.
The audacity.
Actually, warning me. Now, all I had to do is, you know, challenge him physically. I could have taken him down, you know. If you blew on this guy hard, but
Mhm,
he was very mean, he was very nasty, and so he comes my way. All of those people standing there, he
mhm,
grabs my bag and he throws it to the side for no good reason. Now, all I had to do was somehow get physical with him or get into a heated argument.
mhm,
Uh, I knew what was going on. I said, that's somebody full of the devil,
mhm.
and all you know, all my members needed to see
I
it.
was just about to say one of your members was in the airport that day.
They would have
Wait
seen.
to see.
It would have been on television because you know, channel whatever channel 7 or whatever in South Florida, or
Mhm.
channel whatever, they would have had it on TV. Pastor gets into conflict at airport. Now, now the old fool, he would have just gone home and I was attacked. I was attacked.
Yep.
But he'd never touched me. He touched my baggage.
Mhm.
So for me to respond physically to him would have gotten me in trouble and made me look like I am the fool.
Yeah.
I am out of emotional, I have no emotional control.
Yeah.
When you preach these things to people,
Mhm.
you're going to be challenged based on
Mhm.
what you preach to other people.
Yeah.
And boy, I felt it that day. I just looked at him. He kept moving, kept walking. Then after that episode was over, here he comes again. I had an opportunity to say something to him. I left it alone completely
Mhm.
because I knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't know
Mhm.
that sometimes we're stirring up demonic forces
Mhm.
that have a strategy of provoking us to react to things that would pull us into a place where we begin to look like the fool, because when you're arguing with the fool, nobody knows after a while which one is the fool.
Exactly.
So you have to be emotionally mature and intelligent.
I find personally when it has happened to me that I'm always caught off guard. It's always happen. These attacks always happen when I least expect it, when I'm not on my guard.
Yep, yep,
It's
yep,
typically when I recognize those type of attacks.
yeah, yeah. Remember, a number of incidences where I've had to just sort of, and you feel all of these emotions. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean you don't feel yeah, you feel like punching, cursing, kicking. You feel like doing a whole lot of things. See,
Yeah.
that's one of the things about spirituality. You're not going to be void of feelings.
Yeah.
But if I did everything that I felt, I would be in jail. You
Yeah.
know, I would be in jail. So difficult people come from family members, extended family. They come from friend. You can have some people just tolerate difficult friendships, co-workers, difficult people in church. And the only thing that I'm responsible for is my response. I have the responsibility, the ability to respond by the grace of God based on the Spirit of God, me yielding control to the Spirit. So difficult people are just people that are disturbed, people that are hurt, people that are disappointed, people that are downtrodden, people
Mhm.
that are not no longer mentally fit.
Yeah.
All of these are the people that we'll run into, especially nowadays. It's even worse.
Yeah.
And I think, I remember we were in New York. We were on a family vacation. We got to the airport, and this was the first time they used liquids to try and blow up a
It
plane
was
or something.
actually the first day of that new.
Yeah, yeah. We were at the airport and we were at LaGuardia, I think.
Mhm.
And this big guy said something to Alicia. you're not getting something," he said, "off." And man, now the devil's really pushing my button because I'm already plotting in my mind. And I'm going low on him because he's taller than me. But once I get him on his back, I'm gonna punch him in the face a few times. you know, and so that was my mind. And now none of that happened, but I did have to say a few words to him.
Hmm.
But none of that happened. But it can escalate because the devil is using people all the time. And yeah, we had to. I had, we had to throw our colognes away.
Hmm.
Oh man, I could not believe it. I had some. Yeah, we had to, all the liquids, no more bottles and water and all of that. It was a
Yeah,
great vacation until we were on our way back,
exactly.
and some terrorist made it difficult for all of us. That's why we're taking off our belts now and
Hmm.
water on the plane, no liquids over 2 ounces or whatever. But it's all because, it's a setup for more difficult days ahead. And difficult days simply means there are going to be difficult people
Yep,
that we have to deal with.
most definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have to give people permission to be exactly where they are. Okay,
Yeah.
you have a problem today. I'm going to give you permission to have a bad day because if we're truly honest with ourselves, sometimes we're the ones in position having those bad days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially in the grocery stores when we run into that mean person at the counter. And sometimes we're the person that goes in that grocery store being mean to everybody and not saying nothing. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay to extend grace, to allow somebody, give somebody permission. You know what? They're having an off day. I don't know what happened, but let me just show them a little bit of grace, because there are days where I need that grace.
Yeah. Exactly right. And, especially any
Hmm.
public place, we have to go in with the mind. When I wake up in the morning, I know that there's a possibility that there's going to be somebody out there that
You
will
hit the nail on the head.
mess up my day.
Yep.
So I'm aware of that from day one. And I get it sometimes. I go into a place and there will be just somebody just mean for no reason. And the
Hmm.
biggest mistake that we make is trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with me? What did I do? Why are they mean to me? It's
Hmm.
not even about me. It's
Yeah,
about them, and I'm not going to be pulled into their drama.
that's right. You
Therefore,
have permission,
if they don't
not my
speak,
business.
yeah, if they don't speak, if they're not cordial, I'm going to speak and say, I don't lose anything for being cordial.
Right.
I don't lose a thing. Somebody, if I speak to somebody, they don't speak back, I've lost nothing,
Hmm.
because that means that I'm still emotionally
Yeah.
intelligent, even though I'm dealing with a difficult person. We're going to shut out in a little bit. Steph, you got any closing points that you want to make?
I guess at the end of the day, we just have to manage those thoughts. We have to manage those emotions towards people. And if we can do that, then we can experience freedom.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I think where most believers need to mature.
Hmm.
There are too many people driven by feelings and not by their faith. Man, I don't know how many remember this song. I've heard it sang in churches and a lot of churches. Every time I feel the spirit moving in my heart, I will pray.
Yeah,
I wouldn't pray that much because I don't feel the spirit all the time.
exactly.
You know,
This is so
I
true.
wouldn't. People are so
I don't feel 'em
connected
that much.
to their feelings. I would not have a prayer life if
Yeah.
every time I felt the spirit moving
Mm.
in my heart, I'll pray. Yeah, I don't feel him like that. I
Especially after coming from the grocery store.
pray, yeah, I feel him by faith, and I just operate when I get up in the morning. There are no angels saying, "Come into the house of prayer" and all of that. I get up in the morning, I feel groggy, I feel tired, I feel sleepy, still waking up, and I
Hmm.
go into prayer based on knowing. I know that
Yeah.
God hears me. I know that He's with me, not
Hmm.
based on how I feel. I'm not waiting to feel no anointing. And
Yeah.
so it's our feelings, which is really connected to our emotions.
Hmm.
that actually cause us to be subject to other people's negative feelings.
Yeah.
And that's how we get pulled into this stuff.
You said something so key. Wake up with the mindset that, it's like equipping yourself.
Yeah,
Like I said, I always get attacked when I'm not expecting it. It's sudden. But wake up equipping yourself. There, I may run into a crazy person on the street, in the grocery store, at the job, wherever. This is how I'm going to handle these situations when this happens today. And then when you do run into it, you've already planned a response.
yeah. That's very good. Yeah, you want to, and it's not that I'm looking for people that are emotionally ignorant, but I want to balance it out. So there's a possibility that I could run into a fool today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility. So I'm ready to deal with that. However, I am looking for people to favor me.
Yeah.
So I prepare for the fool,
Mm-hmm.
I prepare for the favored.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I look for my
Mhm.
focus is who's going to favor me.
Yeah.
There are people out there that I'm going to favor, and there are people that's going to favor me. But if the fool happens to come along,
I'm ready.
I'm ready for them too.
Yep.
But my focus is on depending on how you focus will determine who you encounter.
Yeah.
If you're
That's
looking
what.
if you're looking for fools, you'll find them.
Yeah.
If you're looking for favor, you will find that. So I'm
Mm.
looking for favor, and that's the thing that I really believe God wants us to have. However, if I run into somebody that is emotionally ignorant,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I know how to handle them
Yeah.
because I've got the fruit of the spirit in operation.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do this. I'm going to be on. I was traveling. I had business in Bermuda for five. I was there for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Business in Bermuda, so I did not do my clubhouse because my flight was delayed twice,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time I got here, it was all back from overseas. It was very very late. But on Mondays, I'm excited about my personal development word study. Here's why. I'm teaching people how to allow their faith to develop them instead of trying to develop their faith.
Mm-hmm.
So many people talk about, I've got to build my faith, build my faith. No, when I look at the scripture, your faith builds you. Somebody says, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to join me on Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for my personal development word study. Of course, for those of you that join me on Clubhouse, excuse me, I'll be there Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, one of my favorites, my favorite, is Relationship Revolution Television, which is Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Man, I love what I do. I appreciate you, Stephanie. And you can you're a therapist. You're a licensed
Mental.
therapist.
Yep.
Give me the whole your all
Licensed mental health counselor.
licensed mental health counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still learning that for whatever. I'm just I'm just a child of God. That's all I am. But anyway, I want you guys to understand that we are being blessed as a result of what we do. Jesus said something powerful. If you want to be great, you are a servant. And we're serving just by sharing this information. There are people, somebody wrote last week that you really helped me when it came to rejection, and
Mm-hmm.
folks were sharing their testimonies. Well, that's why we ask people to give to Relationship Revolution Television. because when you support this kind of programming, we're not on here talking about personalities and people. We're here talking about solutions. And
Mhm.
we want to spread this word all over. And I'm not asking for any particular size gift. I'm just saying if the Lord is laying it on your heart to give into this kind of programming, then you share in the blessing, the benefits, and the breakthroughs that come as a result of serving society with this kind of revelation, information, insight, because the word never returns void. This word that we share tonight is accomplishing what God pleases, and it's prospering in the place that it is sent. So I want you to have a expectation of being blessed, and I want you to have an expectation of what it means to prosper as a result of you helping us to serve through your giving. So there it is. It's all right there on the screen. I want to thank you in advance for your generosity. Now, if you don't have to give, we're standing in faith with you that you so desire, and that when the opportunity presents itself, you will be able to give to Relationship Revolution Television. I am not ashamed to ask. That's how you receive. You ask, and we're asking you that if you are so inclined to participate in this kind of ministry, even though you're not actually on the broadcast, you actually can make an impact and receive every good thing that comes to us. God will also make it come your way, because all good and perfect gifts come from above. So there's more things that we're going to be sharing with you next week. We want to see you here again. Join in my, as she always says, I must call her my lovely co-host, Stephanie Tomlinson. And we're going to be sharing insights, information, revelation concerning how you can, across the board, improve your relationships. If your relationships improve, everything around you will improve,
Yeah.
and you have been given grace and a word of faith to make that happen. So join us again next week. Thank you again, Stephanie, for being with me. Thank
I
you for
love
Alicia.
being here.
Thank you, Alicia, for all you do behind the scenes. And we will see you guys next time right here. Relationship Revolution Television.